Hey, what's going, y'all? It is yours truly once again. Surprise, surprise. Yeah, just thought I'd do a bonus video for everybody. I know I'm getting close to the finale, so just wanted to just add maybe a few more extra things to this finale that's coming up per se. And of course, yes, this tree is awesome, and I think this kind of represents where I'm going with a lot of this this series here. You know, this is actually the second video that I've done with an outdoor background. The first one obviously was in the cold dead of winter, and this one is in the it's on the good side of spring. So because see, the thing is that with the Sigma female, you know, just given the way she's going through life, she goes through the seasons, but she doesn't necessarily go through the seasons like she doesn't go through the seasons like the others. A little different on her part, just given her level of experience out in this world per se, through the good and through the bad. I guess my whole point of starting this particular video of this series was mainly because this whole idea of morale. Now, the thing with the Sigma female per se, it's not to say that a Sigma female doesn't have morality, but it's different. It's not that she sees the world the same way that everybody else does in regards to morality. Just because of her level of experiences and how she came to be in her development. And this makes me think really more or less is that I've come to the conclusion that there are actually two types of Sigma females. Now, in the finale, I'm going to be talking about the Sigma woman, which is different, you know, than the Sigma female. You know, the Sigma woman represents a fully developed version of a Sigma female. You know, she became a Sigma woman. She became a woman per se, based on her Sigma background. But let's talk about the two different types of Sigma females that I believe are out there. The two types of Sigma females that I believe are out there are just based on, there's one that I would call, let's just say, maybe I haven't had necessarily a specific terminology yet, but you know, this is all organic for me. So let's just talk this way. You may have, and I believe this video was for a specific type of Sigma female. You know, there are two types, but you'll see which one I'm really dedicating this video to the most. Really for me more so is that, you know, you'll have a Sigma female that truly rebelled, right? And so she goes about living life on her own. And a lot of times it could be based on her not having all those experiences, you know, that she thought she should have in this world. You know, a lot of the dark side of this world, you know, she kind of wants that type of experience. And so she goes about getting that type of experience, but, you know, she realizes that those dark experiences do not represent the greener grass on the other side. They are not the same. No, those dark experiences are not greener grass on the other side. So she comes to that realization as she gets older, and she decides to mature into a Sigma woman based on that perspective, right? So that's one type of Sigma female I could think of without really a terminology to that. The second type of Sigma female is one who wasn't necessarily rebellious, but she was basically abandoned at a young age, you know. But she still didn't know who she was. in this world. You know, she was still out of touch with her own sense of self. So she had to go through darkness just based on that aspect. You know, she had to find herself in the midst of darkness, unfortunately, but she came through it. And so she basically desired to know more about her womanhood, but she now has this experience that made her someone with a Sigma background. But nevertheless, I think she represents someone that truly defines what I believe is the pure aspect of being a Sigma woman. The one who didn't necessarily want to go through the darkness, but was forced into the darkness, you know. And then I guess, yes, if this makes sense to y'all, I just thought about it. Maybe there's a third type of Sigma female that's out there too. Okay. This is an individual that didn't have to go through a lot of dark experiences when they were younger, whether it was forced upon them or whether they rebelled. But they had to go through a lot of dark experiences upon them getting older. Maybe they had such a good life when they were younger as a female, and then when she got into her womanhood, she decided to be a little more rebellious because, you know, she got tired of this hunky-dory type of a life that she thought she was having. So she decided to get into the darkness. But I guess in many ways that would represent the dark side of a Sigma female, someone that hasn't truly experienced life. And yet you've had the greatness of what life can offer, but somehow that wasn't enough for you. Somehow that was not enough for you. And I think that represents a majority of females in this society. I want to, even in the midst of how I've made a difference between an enigmatic woman and a Sigma female, I still want to believe that with those who go through the Sigma background, they strive to be positive, even if their sense of morality is a little bit abstract than others. There's still this sense of good in them. And someone left a comment in my most recent Sigma video. I believe, I forget which one it was, but, you know, this idea of being kind but not nice. That makes a lot of sense because to me, like I said, morality for someone with the, for a lady with the Sigma background is a little bit different, just given the way she had to come up in life. So, I mean, her mindset more or less is that I'll just try to be towards you the best way that I can be. You know, like there's really no blueprint or no standard or statutes that I go by, no principles, no moralities that I really am familiar with per se, or that I desire to be familiar with, but I can at least be relatable. I can at least be respectful. So that to me represents the idea of someone with a Sigma background who still wants to try her best to display some type of positivity despite her darkness that she's encountered. And but yeah, so I guess on a scale of 1 to 10 as far as the darkness, you know, the most dark of the Sigma types was the third one that I described. The one that lived a very good life, even up until their womanhood per se. And they still chose to be rebellious. And then the second darkest one is the one that, you know, rebelled at a young age, but still found the way to come into her Sigma womanhood upon her realizing that the grass wasn't greener on the other side. And then the least dark of the Sigma types was the one that she was forced into the darkness, and she's been trying to find her way into this light. You know, she had to crawl out from these trees, you know, but at the same time, she represented one of these trees that was planted in this darkness, but she found the way to sprout above all of these circumstances that have been put upon her. And I think that represents a lot of women that do have a certain personality about them, even if they can't quite identify with what that is. But a part of her has always been a fighter her whole life. And this could mean even if she was stricken with some type of illness, whether mental or just physical, but she fought her whole life. on her own when a lot of people even rejected her. She may have even lost her childhood crush because maybe she had a terminal illness that he just couldn't bear to deal with, and he walked away from her. So there's different levels to what I believe a lady with the Sigma background can have. There's different levels to this. And so, like I said, for me, it's definitely based on the one that had things stricken upon them, you know, whether it was clinical or not. That represents to me kind of where this video really projects at the most. It's the one who was forced into the darkness, and you're trying to find your way into this light. Just as I'm walking away from this forest of trees, you know, you was put into here, you know, and they thought you were going to die in the woods, but you still found the way to creep out to get more into this light. You know, you still found the way as I'm walking out. So in all, this represents my whole mindset behind what I believe the Sigma female should embody as far as wanting to find her way out of the darkness. But nevertheless, because of your experience in the darkness, you do know how to adapt to the darkness when it's necessary. So just as I put my hand over this camera, the same can be so with a Sigma female who's forced into some type of blindness for whatever reason. She knows how to adapt to that because she was forced into that at one time, or even if she rebelled and she realized things weren't the way they should be or ideal, she still found the way to get through that, to try to find some positivity in that situation. Now, like I said, just removing my hand from the camera now, you may find some of those who choose to still be in opposition overall in life because they live such a hunky-dory life on the playground sets, if you will, had their way in life, that to them the challenge will always be themselves. The challenge won't necessarily be getting through life. The challenge will always be themselves, and they won't have it any other way because they truly desire to stay in the dark. And but this is a bonus video, like I said, prior to the actual finale, and I just wanted to put that out there because I really had some things in mind as far as I think some things that I could share. And once again, after the finale, I have something else as a surprise for all those who've been checking out this content in regards to my thoughts on the Sigma female. But one more thing I could leave everyone with is let's go back to this idea of morality, right? This idea of morality. Okay, so you have, like I said, with the third type of Sigma female, the darkest one, the one who had lived such a great life, but now she chose to be in the dark, you know, because that was more appealing to her. She got bored with the way her life was, being so good as it was, right? But the thing is this is also what I call a sense of paradox, because with that said, you may have some ladies out there who don't have a Sigma background, but they lived a certain way and they think they're such prissies that there's nothing wrong with them, that they're not whores, and they represent the great example of what a woman should be. But yet she doesn't know how to cook. She doesn't know how to understand that a man goes through things and he's going to have trials and tribulations, that things aren't always going to be as good as you think it is. But I think with someone with the Sigma background, you know, you've been through things. So there's things you can share. You don't feel so selfish depending on what type of Sigma female that you are. You don't think that way, because if you're growing into your Sigma womanhood from being a Sigma female, you can share some of the pains that a man can go through. You don't feel like this prissy goody two-shoe girl that everything's going to be all right and I'm going to always get my way, you know? So this even goes out to the women that I think who have had a promiscuous background, and you may not have understood why you've lived that way. But I believe just because you have that Sigma asterisk to your profile, I believe it's in such a way that now you understand that you have a better heart than maybe some of these females out here who haven't been promiscuous, but they just think their stuff don't stink, right? And that's just something to really think about. I thought that that'd be that'd be a little extra for everybody to marinate on. But let me stop here. Don't want to talk too long. But the finale down the road. But I just wanted to throw this extra out there for everyone. And once again, I'm thankful for everybody that's checked this series out. That means a lot to me. And for that, I have a surprise for everybody after the finale is done. Now the wind's blowing, so that's a message in that for those who are in tune with nature. I believe it's a good message because the wind feels good. So maybe that was a round of an applause from nature itself. And that this series was naturally meant to be for everybody. Much love to y'all. Signing out.